The most underrated skill in business, besides the service that you actually provide and, is irreplaceable because you're the person who does that service, is copywriting. And I am not just saying that because I'm a copywriter. I have worked with business owners who have been in the game for 20 years, and after they work with me, they wish they had done it sooner. Most people think copywriting is just content for your websites or your emails, but it's actually not just that. When you know copywriting, it is the skill underneath all the marketing and sales in your business. It touches every single piece of how you interact with your people. So that content piece or the words piece, it's actually the smallest piece of copywriting. Let's dive in and talk about why copywriting is so essential for your business. If you haven't learned copywriting, some of the things you might be experiencing is showing up consistently, networking, posting on LinkedIn, posting on Instagram, getting on calls, doing all of the things, but people are still not clear on what you do. They're not converting, or maybe they're like, this is interesting, but they're not jumping in because maybe they don't see exactly how it's going to help them. It's not that people don't want your service. It's that your message isn't conveying the value of those services and why someone might need this now and really how it's going to help them. And getting really clear on that and being able to communicate that in a simple, clear, concise way is such a game changer when it comes to your business. A lot of the times when people are trying to write for their business, for example, the content on their website or their LinkedIn post or their emails, they will open up a doc or maybe they go straight to the website like Flowdesk or ConvertKit or LinkedIn and they're like, all right, what am I going to say today? It's Tuesday. I always email on Tuesdays. What am I going to say? And maybe if you can't think of anything, you hop on over to Claude and you're like, what should I talk about this week? I always email on this day and I have nothing to talk about, so what should I talk about? And usually when that happens, it's because there's no overarching framework for what you're saying. So you have nothing to pull from. When you have a strong framework, you don't really get stuck on, wait, I have nothing to say, because you know what to say. Even if it feels a little bit repetitive, you are using that framework to clearly communicate the same message over and over and over again from different angles. And that's what's going to make you an authority in your space. That's what's going to make people be like, oh, that person, I know exactly what they do and how they help and who they help. And that's also what's going to get you more referrals, because if other people can repeat your message back to you, then that means that they know exactly how you can help. They're super clear on it. So when you think about strategy and messaging, that is the glue that holds copywriting together. Without that glue, you might have a post that sounds really good. It can sound really professional, but it's not doing justice to what you do. It's not communicating your value, and that's going to hurt your conversions. So before you tweak your website headline for the 17th time, here are some signs that your copy skills need some developing. If your messaging is off, when you go to networking events, you feel awkward. You might ramble on sales call. Your content feels inconsistent. You're kind of talking about different things all of the time. People don't know to refer you because they aren't clear on what you do. But when your message is dialed in, you can explain it really well, and it doesn't take, multi-paragraphs to explain it. And other people can say it back to you. They can be like, hey, I know exactly what this person does. And then you also feel more confident talking about yourself. So to zoom out on your framework, what are you actually thinking about before you get to your blank Google Doc? One is your strategy. So what you're doing and why. So how do all of the pieces of what you're doing fit together? So how does all of your marketing fit together? How does your sales process fit together? That's your strategy. And then the messaging is, what are you actually saying? What is the core story that you are trying to communicate? And if you skip these pieces or you're not clear on these pieces, that is where your copywriting isn't going to work as well as it should. So to give some examples, because that's the teacher in me, I'm always going to be given examples. I went to a networking event this week, and it was a networking event for women, and it was all for local businesses in the town that I live in. And so we all went around the room and said, what is it that you do and how can you help people? And so I went super simple and I said, I help local small businesses write content on their websites. I use the word content instead of copywriting because I know a lot of the local small businesses in my area, they don't use the word copywriting, they use the word content. And I knew I was in a room full of local small business owners, so that is what I said because that is who I help in this context. And so because of the way that I said that, I had 4 people come up to me and say they needed help with their websites, and one of those people has already booked a coffee chat. So this was 2 days ago. And so what I'm trying to say about this is just being aware of like who's in the room, right? Who's your ideal client in that situation? So if you're showing up on email marketing, who's your ideal client that you're talking to? If you're showing up on LinkedIn, who's your ideal client? And what is it that they want? What do they need help with? And how can you help them? That's really the core of messaging. And it sounds easy, but when you're actually talking about yourself, it can be a little bit tricky. But what happens when you get on a sales call and you're not over explaining anymore and you can say, hey, here's what's going on, here's what we do, and here's what it looks like. This is exactly how we can help you. Having that clarity is going to help your conversions. And the same thing with content. If you are posting randomly every week or a few times a week and it's not connected and there's no glue that holds it all together, that's going to hurt your conversions. Versus when you come in with the strategy, you come in with strong messaging and positioning, everything is going to tie back to one clear idea. And no matter what you're posting, it's going to tie back to this idea. And that is, again, going to give you more authority in that space. A lot of the advice that I'm seeing out there is all about getting more visible. And while getting visible is important, it is not the end all be all. You might have a business where getting visible just means networking, right? It just means having a good referral network. Not everybody needs to get super visible and grow this really big audience. So yes, you do need to get in front of new people. That is part of marketing. But what are you already doing with the people that are in your circle? How are you already converting the people who are in your audience and paying attention? That's going to go so much further than always trying to get new people into your audience. So if you are feeling like, hey, it is hard for me to explain what I do, I don't know what to post about, it's really uncomfortable for me to promote myself, then this is your invite to join the No AI Copywriting Challenge. It starts on Tuesday, March 31st. If you are listening to this in real time, you can join with the link in the show notes. The goal of the challenge is to create one piece of well-positioned content that clearly communicates your value and what you do. And every day we will do a small piece of this copywriting. The first day is strategy in deciding what you're doing and why. The second day is messaging, which is finding the core message behind what you say. And finally, day 3 is copywriting. Notice that the writing part comes on the last day. On day 3, we finally create that piece of content. So this is your chance to slow down so that you can speed up. Take 20 minutes a day to build that copywriting skill so you can show up more confidently at networking events and sales calls. Be more strategic about how and when you post, and really build the skill that will benefit you for the rest of your business life. The link to join is in the show notes, and I will see you there.